Sirens and blue lights, the call of duty for police officers sworn to serve and protect, but for some, a call-out from which they may never return. In a country ranked the world's third most dangerous, our policemen and women are overworked and often overwhelmed. It's been that way for a long time.
My whole family was in the police force. My dad, my uncles, and at that time, this was in 1979 when I joined.
The workload has always been excessive, complicated by extreme and brutal cases. This retired officer doesn't want to reveal his identity.
I was tasked to picking up bodies. I worked at the CSI, and every day I picked up bodies. And so it just messed my life up completely. I couldn't live a normal life. It affected my personal life, my family life. I was married, and my marriage ended in divorce. And I became an alcoholic, so to speak. If you were going for psychological help, then you were referred to as a weakling, you know. You couldn't take the pressure, you couldn't take the job.
He was medically boarded in 2001 with post-traumatic stress disorder so severe it impacted his ability to work, a common theme in the police. This mental anguish and the determination to suffer in silence raises a critical question. Could it be the reason some officers respond so violently to stress in their personal lives? In February, 30-year-old 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘀 was at Tembisa Hospital where she worked as a nursing assistant. The father of her young son called her from the parking lot. They had a stormy relationship and that day a big argument. 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘀's father, Malisela Munene, got the devastating call.
𝗵𝗶𝘀ci𝗿𝗆 𝗀𝗫 barking mishman nanale 𝗀𝗫𝗱𝗃.
That man was an officer of the law.
This guy so if
And according to her childhood friend Lina Makgawa, 𝗀𝗶𝗀 had every reason to leave.
Imagine beating her inside a mall, in front of everyone, a policeman. Imagine that. That is why it was easy for him to shoot him right in a public hospital.
Unlike 𝗀𝗶𝗀, Babalo Musunkutu didn't report her abusive police officer boyfriend because she feared he would respond with more violence.
Not sharper like some of the days, but move on.
In 2016, Babalo wasn't home when Officer John Mabuza called round to drop off their 4-year-old son. She left him months earlier and was now with a new boyfriend, Dan Pasha. That day, the two men came face to face.
Then I'm phone John Kiwo utolata utliste ngwana. So I knew it was John Joanga. Then I came running. Then kutla I feel like a chola arobetse mole mo strateng. Then Johnny na wa matha o kena ka mokolong.
In the chaos of Dan's killing, Babalo didn't immediately realize that John had not been alone in the car.
Ka tlona le fo. Ka tlare John o bitse ke mo fasolle dieta. Then I ke mo fasolla dieta. Aba ithunya. Then aba uwela tsheko ngwana. Ona atla Johnny mo montlong like maybe ke robetse ne ke robala ka mo kamoreng ele. Ke mmone like a feta tourist thunya like he will like a popola mo festering. Then ke tla bula ke o batlang. After that nna tsamaya.
Looking back, she pinpoints the time John turned from a loving, protective partner to a jealous, violent monster.
Ke kena ku Facebook nya John. Only to find out John na se epi kom sebetsi ngwa. Like he was complaining.
Homicide-suicide is an act where an individual kills one or more people before killing themselves. Many studies suggest that this phenomenon appears to be increasing amongst the members of the South African Police Service. This is because they are constantly exposed to stressful decision-making situations, serious injury, and death on the job. A 2009 study by the University of Pretoria shows the biggest proportion of intimate partner homicide-suicide perpetrators are police members, with 90% of the victims female. The Pretoria University study notes that cases of suicide that follow the murder of an intimate partner are often linked to relationship turmoil. It's a view supported by forensic psychologist and veteran of the police service, Dr. 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗶. He believes it's a mistake to see homicide-suicides as purely the result of job pressures.
It's a domestic violence issue. And that's the same reasons and the same context that when these happen outside of the police. I mean, I've had people who worked in logistics who committed suicide. So I think we will always have people who end up committing suicide, no matter what occupation they are in, no matter how wonderful their lives are necessarily going.
But still, the numbers appear to be mounting. In theory, the South African Police Service offers significant aid to its members via its Employee Health and Wellness Service. Their programs include domestic violence and anger management, just to name a few. But there seems to be no national standard for treatment or even enough data to determine the scale of the problem. Almost 80% of the police service received proactive training on anger management and domestic violence in 2018. A little under 35,000 sought assistance from the in-house Employee Wellness Service with benefits like trauma counseling. It's unlikely these figures accurately reflect the extent of the mental health problem within police ranks. Many choose to suffer in silence.
Now, if you have been through those processes and your information leaks about, that you had post-traumatic stress disorder, for example, it then means that the seniors who have to interview you and actually assess you to get promoted would obviously have a view about you already. So that is seen as a disadvantage for most members of the SAPS.
But if every officer needing trauma therapy requested it, the police service simply wouldn't be equipped to meet the demand.
Currently, those services utilize the services of social workers and priests. The social workers, they are limited, of course. They are not sufficient enough.
Priests?
Yes, priests. Hallelujah.
Wow.
While it's not unusual for priests to counsel police officers, it's unlikely they possess the professional skills needed to deal with complex psychological issues. But that's a criticism not limited to people of the cloth.
So what SAPS did to try and rectify that, which is wrong, is they started to employ people who weren't qualified registered psychologists with the Health Professions Council.
Shouldn't it then become a compulsory requirement?
Ideally, it should be a compulsory requirement. However, the one challenge that I had obviously indicated is the fact that there is lack of capacity. The social workers they are limited, of course. They are not sufficient enough. That is why they cannot be everywhere at the same time.
The shortages of properly qualified staff aside, the implications of armed police officers with untreated psychological issues are serious. Has the time come for the SAPS to take a tougher stance on treatment? Our numerous requests for an interview with the police went unanswered, nor could we check official statistics or suitability of support services to members with depression and post-traumatic stress.
You're losing level, looking at her children, asking ourselves, how will they grow up knowing that somebody killed their mother?
A question they hope will be answered when the suspect is able to appear in court. His attempt to take his own life failed, and he's currently recovering in hospital.
That's why I